possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
What up? Good morning. Sunday early. The darkness is in on us. This is Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. I want to give shouts out to Dr. Razdan and Finn, obviously for their support for me physically, but then also Advanced Medical Imaging, always doing their best to keep me upright, and everybody else in Lincoln. Some pretty cool stuff. We had Dr. Razdan on, I think, a couple weeks ago to go over some unique techniques and stuff like that. But the technique that was the most important, Harrison, was a 31-14 win by Nebraska, which is pretty good for people out there that I guess probably took the over. And I'm not a betting guy, but I know the spread was like 2.5 points. So, that was definitely exceeded expectation. And especially at one point in the game, Nebraska was up 24-0. So look, it's 3 in a row. One step closer to the big step. And, for this team and this program where it's at, it'd be a huge step. And now the expectations and pressure, I think, mounts a little bit. But I think really, to be honest with you, the coaching staff is hopefully going to do a good job of keeping the guys focused. And Harrison, wanted to ask you about this. And this is just my opinion. So you tell me if, you agree or just go fly a kite, which most people try to tell me to do. But, even sometimes after victory, and you could say this after the last 3, right? Illinois, Northwestern, and obviously here with Purdue, is that you could still, if I was coaching or I've been on teams like this, in particularly in the pros, that when you have a victory, right? I remember in times in Buffalo when we started to reel off like 3-4 wins in a row, as much as Wade Phillips could, he kept pressing us because it wasn't to the standard, right? And I think with this, victory, even though the 24-hour rule or the next day rule is what you need to have, is that, when next time they're out in practice or their meetings, there's a lot of things that you could, push them harder on. And that's obviously ball security is right up there. That's number one. Right.
Yeah, it's amazing we keep winning games with the turnover margin being what it is. We
created our own. We created some, but just coming out. I mean, there's going to be a game where a team will try to play keep away and see if we can put the ball on the turf, right? And it is amazing. But
I'm not trying to take away from the Husker win, but typically, if you're leading the country in fumbles, you're probably not 5-3. So credit for finding a way to win those games, but. Matt Rule's saying, everyone's saying it's a problem.
Right.
You got to tighten it up.
Yeah, and I think I think it's like the first play of the game, the last two. Well, within the first 2 plays, the last 2 games, we turned the ball over. I guess if you want to get technical, I think I'm not really sure if the first play kickoff against Northwestern went out of the end zone, but the first pass pick, and then obviously the kickoff, which we said on the pregame show, with the wind. And depending on, in the stadium where you're kicking, it was going to affect special teams. Now, I suspected that it would affect Purdue more, and it went up to one of our upbacks. Snodgrass went in there, and the ball was definitely kind of flimsy a little bit. And, I thought Nebraska got it, but I think Purdue had it, and then Nebraska came out of it at the scrum. And so first possession on that went to Purdue. Very easily you could look, how many times and this is credit to the team that we have now and the staff, but prior, you can even go back to with nice Mike Riley and even sometimes with Bo, right? As a fan, oh crap, here we go. One of these games, and I've talked to season ticket holders of when they were at those games, like, dang, I drove all the way in from Kearney, I drove all the way in from Omaha, and as soon as I sit down, we got a turnover and we're down 10-0, and this and this, and a victory. I think when you show up and you almost lose the Ball State or McNeese State or whatever, take you to Amir, has a miracle return and stuff.
Amir Abdullah, where he breaks 5 tackles
and score against McNeese. That's great, but it's come on now. So look, I don't think it's anything purposeful. I think it's a learning process. And when you say they have to learn how to win, it's more than just the ball security. There's little things of, like, here, for instance, Jenkins and Scorton essentially destroyed the offense, right? They had 8 tackles for loss between those two. 8 tackles for loss between 2 guys. Those 2 guys were like the Harlem Heat of tag team wrestling when they were at they were like the Road Warriors. But and they were good players coming in, right? Because I think when we on old school talked about Purdue's defense, high risk, high reward, had 2 really good guys. Well, they showed up. That's like you had 2 guys coming in with 5 sacks each, right? One's leaving with 6, another one's leaving with 7. That's who they are, right? But some of the plays were, especially on the edges, we didn't block well, which allowed them to kind of put us behind the chains, put us in obviously tackles for loss and be in behind schedule. So those are the things that I'm also going to harp on. You know what I mean? Because it's not a schematic thing. You can't really, like, when you got 2 guys with 8 tackles for losses, you can't really say it's a schematic thing. We got to get an execution. We got to get an execution up there. We got to put our body on the guys. It's not like, it's not taken away from those 2 young gentlemen, but it's not like it's Chase Young and Joey Bosa up there, or Nick Bosa or whoever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where you got 2 guys that are going to go in the top 5 picks in the league. So they have, and so we got to do a better job of attention to detail and being a little, our butts a little bit more puckered up, and we can get going. But there's a lot of things that they can correct immediately, but it's got to be the whole team.
Well, I kind of want to talk about some of these things because this kind of tees up what you're talking about here from Chris in Omaha. And again, if you guys want to join the show, 402-464-5685 says, what is needed to fix the offensive problems this team has? I understand the line is patchwork, but if it's next man up, why do they struggle so much? Is it the OC or is it the players? The defense looks pretty much dialed in.
Well, to be honest with you, Chris, and that's a great question. And I like that from the naked eye, right? And it always, and I've been saying this, when I used to talk, me and DP talked about it, because you have to, in this season and with this team, it's a 12 movie series that there is no boil over. And so you can't really show up with your Rotten Tomatoes,
your audience score,
your Rotten Tomatoes audience score or your review already halfway written. So that's a perfect example, Chris, and I appreciate you being up early with us and participating. You talked about the offensive line. Offensive line actually blocked pretty good.
We and DP talked about that when we gave grades,
right?
And if I was putting them on a curve, I was anywhere between like a B- to a B.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, they did their job. Where we struggled a little bit was on the edges, a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's part of the whole thing. And it's not on the offensive coordinator, right? I mean, the offensive coordinator doesn't have, all right, fumble the ball, ready break, or not hit the open guy, ready break. So you could get into like, okay, the flow of the plays or the concepts of the plays, but ultimately, when we're talking about, to answer his question, the offensive line with patchwork guys and with guys that hadn't started before, they represented more than enough against an active front. I'd be willing to bet that Purdue's front, right? That means their first and second level poses more problems than Northwestern. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that was Purdue's biggest strength heading into this game,
right?
Was that front.
Right. And then the offensive line answered the call. So actually the offensive line played really, really well under the circumstances, but just in general, they played good, right? Because you got to think the times that Heinrich Harburg was back there and took a few sacks or hits or threw it out of bounds, he wasn't getting touched.
Mm-hmm.
He was just back there, and he was able to, so Purdue was playing deep. So, the offensive line did well. So again, and when you talk about as far as I guess if you want to ask about the OC, I wouldn't say it has to do with the OC. I think we struggled a little bit on blocking on the edges and the little details of things. And I think Purdue caught us by surprise as far as the intensity and intent that they showed up with. And then Nebraska recovered. I think our defense matched it. I think our defense took it upon themselves and said, whoever's defense plays better is going to win this game. The offense started to come around. So I think it's more on some position groups and guys getting it going and understanding. I think one of the things, if I could talk to the team and tell them, like, look, don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that whiffs at the point of attack. Don't be that guy that you think you're on the backside so I can take a break off. Don't be that guy that only, plays hard if you're going out for a pass or you think you're going to get a pass. Don't be that guy. Be that guy that's going to answer the bell and be accountable every single play to everybody else on whatever side of the ball that you're on and everybody on the sidelines. You take that mentality, you lessen two guys, two guys don't come in here and have 8 tackles for losses or whatever. So I think that's it. I mean, that was a great question, but it's everybody, the easy thing is say, okay, the offensive line isn't blocking. It wasn't that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few over the last couple of years, where it's you come in, the easy things in the offensive line. There's been times it hasn't been the offensive line. It's been other guys not representing.
So that's kind of where I was at. Some of the people were killing me on the text line yesterday. Some of the people were agreeing with me, but I kept seeing, a lot of those hits in the backfield. It's so easy to chalk it up on the O-line. But if you actually break it down, like you're saying, there's times where Harburg, you just got to get rid of it. You see it sometimes, in the NFL, especially when you had pocket Hercules scrambling around.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're just that far out of the pocket, it makes it really hard for you guys to even know where you're at. And some of it's just schematic too. We do have Milkman saying with the lack of players, I think the offense is making progress. I think I could agree with that. With Satterfield, I think he's figuring out some things. We had that one with Lloyd that dialed up, and I think it's going to be a lot of that, just kind of setting up those big explosive plays through the run.
Well, you had the one with Lloyd. You had the one that, Jaden Doss caught one and had a huge first down, and then the one that he dropped at the beginning of the game. I think as much as everybody wants to, jam up Satterfield, you got to give him credit. Look, it's patchwork, and he's been on his heels from the very beginning. Meaning, okay, well, you start out and you have your quarterback that you didn't assume that would start out with it and have some turnover issues in Minnesota and obviously Colorado. Then you have to put Harburg in there, and then you got to kind of figure out that type of offensive schematics, with a totally different quarterback. Okay, what's working? What's the rhythm? And then you start to have a rash of injuries. And then last week you had 3 offensive linemen get hurt. They're going to be out for a while. 2 out for the season. Newelli's out for another week or 2, I assume. And then that's on top of, you go on the road, you beat Illinois before the break, and you're most polished. Him and Billy Kemp, you're one of your most polished receivers is out for the season. And then the next week you come out, Billy Kemp plays a half, and he's out for a while. I don't know if he's going to be able to come back. So it's for what he has and what they're doing, not only Marcus Satterfield, but the whole staff, the offensive staff, and I mean the coaching staff, because it does affect the defense as well, because how the offense is preparing has got to, obviously match up with Tony White and the special teams. So I think it's a really good job of just, dealing with what they had to deal with on the run. But then also I think you got to give it's commendable for Jalen Lloyd, Jaden Doss, Malachi Coleman. I know he didn't get a catch yesterday, but he had a huge, pass interference called when the guy, essentially tackled him.
He was beat. That was a smart move by Purdue to give up another 6 points.
Right.
Because he made he was going to get blown by.
And so, for those 3 young guys, really between all 3 of them, it total 6 targets. And so, it's like, look, you got a 73-yard touchdown and a big 16-yard catch by Doss. So that's what you want. And then you had, Joshua Fleeks in there, and I think Fedoni got a catch, a 1-yard touchdown and stuff like that. So it is patchwork.
I think Tyhan.
Yeah, Tyhan.
He got one.
Yeah,
as well yesterday.
Yeah. Tyhan had one, and they tried to get it to Borkature and stuff. So they just got to keep working at it. I think if they could ever get 2 or 3 weeks together without any injuries, I think you're going to start to see some more consistent offense output. The freshman receivers are stepping up. I mean, you got to think, man, just a year ago, they're playing in the high school playoffs. They really, I mean, realistically, that's what they're doing. They're going. A year ago, they were playing. At least Lloyd and Malachi Coleman were in high school playoffs playing against Gretna, and then a year later, they're in the Big Ten in the Power 5 conference starting. And so it's a big step up, but it's commendable for the coaches, which is McGuire. And I don't know who his assistant coach is because you always, have assistant coach to get those guys ready. And it's also commendable to those 3 young men and everybody else to embrace the challenge and not just be okay with I'm playing because of injuries. Go out there and try to make a name for yourself. So, look, I mean, they only threw it 11 times. For 120, 2 yards, 3 sacks given up, and you like it a little bit more. But I think for what they were doing, they did well. I think it could do a lot better because the amount of balls on the ground, needs to get done, and that's also in the special teams as well. Bullock.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you still feel comfortable with them just keep putting Bullock out there? Because it was the first one he muffed, but later on he was able to get a few. He didn't try to run in from back. I don't think he just fair caught the rest of them. But with Alex Bullock back there, are you worried about that at all going forward?
I'm not making excuses for him, and neither are the coaches. It's just about technique.
Yeah, he looked uncomfortable for me the first time he was back there, and then I saw a little bit with Purdue.
Yeah,
and I just hope he kind of has that confidence going forward.
Well, I could tell you what, he better be hugging Quentin Newsom. Because I'm telling you, Purdue had 5 guys on that ball, squirted out of there. Big ups to Quentin Newsom, the senior, Johnny on the spot, playing through the whistle, and he had good, fumble recovery technique, and good on him. Now, as far as Alex Bullock, he's just got to work at it. If when you get out there in the wind, I don't know what they expect there for the weather-wise up there in East Lansing. I'm sure it's going to be cold. If you got to get out there after practice and catch, another 10, 15 balls every single day and do it and get better at it. And then that's where the confidence comes from. So when he steps out there or East Lansing, he has confidence, like, I put the work in. And it was more of a technical issue, right? You want to let it drop down into you versus then you let it get. It's kind of, I equated here before we go to break, the equivalent of what happened with him for you baseball people. I always said that, and you see this in basketball too. Be strong with your hands. Don't let the ball get too close to your body, right? That's the basketball analogy. Essentially, don't let it eat you up. It hit too high up here, like right below his face mask, hitting his like chest plate in there. Then you just never know, right? Where you want to kind of attack that ball, just like you want to have one step back and come into it's like a pop fly,
right?
And so that just comes into it. And look, the wind was swirling, and it's his first one. Billy Kemp had probably, he'd been returning punts probably since he's been a freshman in college. And so, not that, you go in there, I don't care if you've been there 1 or 100 times, you got to catch it, but you understand it. But the good thing about it was recovered by us. So I'm sure Alex Bullock and Snodgrass are going to be doing some ball drills.
Yeah, I know this one just cracked me up. I know Tommy Hill had a great game, but did you see that one?
Listen, Tommy Hill, it's commended. First of all, Tommy Hill has done a really good job of being a starter. I mean,
100%. He's been balling out.
Yeah, he's a starter. He's Matt Rule has said maybe didn't start off on the right foot, right? But he has really found a way to be. They found something in some sort of connection with him, right? What I mean is worked along with him. Been a little bumpy road and put him in there. Kind of fell asleep against Colorado and got smoked by Travis Hunter. But then ever since then, it seems like he's locked in and done some good things enough to be in there and gain the trust of Tony White to be in there. And I think he's a starter because they kind of have it weird. You know what I mean?
I think he's pretty much
a starter in a black shirt. So that's good. So he's out there and he's starting to play really well on defense. He had a great interception where Tommy Hill has makeup speed where it's too much and he got the interception. Pretty unique return, right? He got on with the old flyby, and that's just Tommy Hill. A good job of not forcing it and not losing the ball and getting down. But the punt return, I don't know how you go from that's called a vice technique. Essentially, you're blocking the gunner. I can almost guarantee you the special teams coach Foley is gonna have okay, you got away with it. Don't ever do that again. I've to be honest with you, of playing all through youth football, middle school, high school, in college and pros, I've never seen that before.
I haven't either. It was just cracking me up because it was,
like,
the ball parachuted, and I'm like, oh, he's tracking this down.
Well, yeah, no. Well, the thing is, he was just running. Then it was the ball's coming. He's like, all right, I'll just catch it.
Yeah.
Now it'd be another thing if he, really, I would have liked seeing him do is fair catch it. But I don't want you touching the ball. That. First of all, it like I said, as much as they did well yesterday, winning 31-14, you can't be out there street balling. Like, listen, we were the better team yesterday. Let's not win in a ragtag way, and that's what Matt Rule's when he's talking about teaching them how to win. Let's do everything we need to do and force them to make mistakes. Let's not even give it a second thought, because it worked out that time, right? It won't work out eventually. And if you want an equation of how you really like how this team is able to overcome those type of decisions, go back to 2 or 3 years ago, Nebraska on the road at Illinois, Brett Bielema's first game. We try to field the ball at the 2-yard line, miss it. Next thing you know, they get they score, or they get 2 points. And then when we get the ball back, sack, forced fumble. And then we should have went in the halftime with the lead, going there down by 10. Game over. Now you're really climbing uphill. So those are the things that Matt Rule probably will reference to. And then obviously reference the positive, but then also have a highlight reel of some of the things that we need to control, and that's decision-making and ball security moving forward, because this next game is a huge game. If you think this game was kind of like the gateway game, because I always say this is a gateway game because you're at 4, and the hard one is to get 5 because you can kind of envision 6. Well, now you're on the cusp of getting 6, and you're going to enemy territory. So you can't go up there with a high turnover rate. You got to go up there and make them turn the ball over, because their defense is going to come with it at home. So a lot to be, still, dissected. And so we're going to take a quick break. This is Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We'll be right back. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show, powered by Sunbelt Rentals. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador, Select Plumbing, Jimmy John's, Lincoln Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits, Fleet Feet, Bure's Cheese Spread on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you want to come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
So what's this new concept happening at 1040 O Street? There's 93.7 The Ticket, there's the Mill Coffee and Tea, and there's Grandma's Bake Shop and Beatrice Bakery? Well, yeah, it's all of those things. It's a place for the community to hang out, grab a drink and a bite, and just chill, or work, or meet, or chat, or whatever you want to do. 93.7 The Ticket, the Mill Coffee and Tea, Grandma's Bake Shop, and Beatrice Bakery. All together at 1040 O Street.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
So, yeah, that sounded like Heinrich's the guy. I think he said again, Heinrich's got to improve his conditioning, which is one of the most confounding things I've heard. He looks like a decathlete. I mean, he's not a dumpy quarterback.
Oh, he runs.
I mean, he's
pretty
one of
fast.
the best looking athletes on the campus.
Look at the run he had for the touchdown in that game. He looked pretty
Look
fast.
at the dude. How can his conditioning be bad?
What is this about?
It might be about that they asked him to do about everything.
He's carrying it 20 times a game. Right. He's a quarterback.
Early Break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
We're back. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Dive into it for a good first segment. Listen, anytime you have a victory, I'd rather have a lot of correctable things in a victory than a loss, because those things, it's first of all, then the insurmountable amount of negativity could definitely come in when you lose those type of games and stuff like that. It's a good time for them. They've accomplished some things that you haven't been able to accomplish. Regardless, you could question the schedule, which is all there, right? But then you could question the schedule, or not question the schedule. If they don't handle their business, then you'd be mad. So at some point in time, you just have to say, listen, they're handling their business. It's not the end product. They're doing what they need to do. And with these type of kids in this situation, they could they'll learn more or be more attentive after a win and be able to get it to them. So you have to make sure that you hold them accountable, increase the expectations. Don't essentially gloss over some of the things that you need to fix, like yesterday. That means those are the things that you need to be talking to them about in the locker room.
Yeah, quick 14 points there,
right?
And then all of a sudden it's a 10-point game,
right?
Which we do have a question that, this might be a harder one to answer, but it's pretty broad. What do we do with Jeff Sims from Nyla? Is he still your second string QB? I think is basically what she's asking.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that's a great question. What do you do with Jeff Sims? Well, first of all, you got the season's still going,
mm-hmm.
right? And he's one play from being in there, maybe for extended period of time. I'm coaching him even harder right now. I am. And so the fact that I think now, granted, I'm assuming he just didn't sub himself in, right?
Yeah, and I'll quick say I did not like kind of putting him in there at that point in the game.
I think you had to because, and that's great. I understand that because it's almost to Nyla's point. Were you here when Cody Green was here?
No.
So Cody Green was the backup to Taylor Martinez, I think. I always get Taylor. It's Taylor Martinez. And he had shown flashes. Now, this is totally different, but Cody Green, and this is when I knew Bo had kind of like messed up his whole career, right? Is that we were playing Oklahoma at home on a day like yesterday. It was like a overcast day, 2:30 game.
Windy, cold.
It was the third quarter, and Oklahoma had one of the best. This is when Bob Stoops, I think, was still coaching.
Okay, yeah.
And they had one of the best defenses in the nation. I mean, tons of dudes getting drafted. He threw him in there. It like backed up on the 1 yard line. It was like, all right, here you go, man. Since everybody wants you in there. Now that wasn't the case, but I think maybe the coaching staff felt like Heinrich Haarberg, because he started to kind of spiral a little bit, and sometimes you had to. He was getting a little bit over his skis a little bit. That's and so you put Jeff Sims in there, and it was a couple handoffs, and it was 4th and 1, right? they were going for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't expect them to have ball security, and then my man was gone. I had never, to be honest with you, I was watching the game. I turned around to like get a Gatorade or something. And I was like, man, this dude, because sometimes people pick up the ball and they'll just run to make sure that they didn't miss it. But it was in action. It's not the ideal situation for him to get in the game. But I don't know right now when is an ideal situation for Jeff Sims to get in there. You know what I mean? Because and here's why. You had Heinrich Harburg at the point that he went in the game. Nebraska was up 24-6, right? The Heinrich Harburg looked just a little bit flustered. You know what I mean? As far as taking some sacks, and I'm sure on the sideline they were like, "Oh well, Harrison was open, Jay was open, you're missing." So sometimes you get so wound up, and things get so fast as a younger quarterback or a younger player that you need to just say, "All right, I just need to just step out for a series,
right,
and see it from a different perspective." And I think Jeff Sims had probably started to look more healthy in practice. So all right, let's put him in there a little bit more. Obviously, a veteran quarterback. So I guess in theory, that's the good time to put him in there. In reality, maybe not. But ultimately, you're not putting him in expecting him to fumble on 4th and 1, and then they return it for 55 yards.
I was driving in the car. How many plays was he in there? Because on the play-by-play, it just sounded like the 4th and 1 he got subbed in. Did he have a few plays leading up to that?
I think we had to ask on the text line. I think he had that series.
Okay. So I could be wrong on that. I thought it was a 4th and 1 situation and they put Sims in there.
No,
and that's what blew my mind.
I had saw him warming up. I think he got that series.
Okay.
And it got down because I think they ran it a couple times.
That makes a big difference.
And then he kind of like got back to the line of scrimmage, and then I think there was a timeout or something like that. And then,
Yeah, we do have Chris in Omaha. Shout out. He's helping us out here. Yeah, he was that series. Yep.
So.
And then the Milkman says, I thought it was a good idea to get Sims in at that point. I just hope he can build confidence in that backfield.
Well, I mean, quite as kept, even like last week after the first turnover and then, accuracy issues, people were asking, well, when is Jeff Sims going to get back in? So now he gets back in and he fumbles. I think Jeff Sims, look, it's been an issue. It's individually, you have to. This isn't a can you or will you. You have to take care of the ball. And that's across the board, right? Now it's magnified because you're in for 4 plays, you have a turnover, and say Heinrich Harburg's in for 40, and he has a few. But at the end of the day, 1 is too many.
Yeah, and for being honest, Heinrich Harburg, he's been getting a couple, under his first play to start these games out. Yeah. So it's not like it's nothing new,
Overall, it's and the easy thing is like I said, the easy thing is it's coaching. Blame the coaches. Either what they say, it's either okayed or allowed or whatever, or encouraged or allowed. Now this is where the leadership on that offense side. So whether it's Heinrich Harburg or even Ben Scott, whoever is the leader on offense, doesn't matter what position group, right? And it doesn't matter really if he's a starter or not. Somebody that's respected in that offensive conglomerate of position groups and players need to step up and say, we need to do better. We need to start just in that alone. Because you got to feel confident. If we don't turn the ball over, the defense will keep us in the game, and our offensive coaches and staff will figure out a way to kind of just patchwork some stuff in there. So really, to be honest with you, I mean, it would be to the point of, if I'm an offensive player and I'm the leader, everybody's doing ball drills forget the coaches. Okay. And this is not anything a shot at forget the coach. Let's take our own responsibility. All right. This isn't, I would say like this, and this is how I try to bring everybody kind of into it together. This isn't a Heinrich Harburg problem. This isn't a Jeff Sims problem. This isn't a running back problem. This isn't a tight end problem. This is our problem, right?
If you look at the numbers, it is our problem.
It is right.
It's widespread.
And you know what? The defenses too. Let's why not do extra, man? We are on the cusp, regardless, right? They're not gonna if Nebraska's fortunate enough to make the bowl game, and I still think they can win more. They can win more than 6 games. They're not gonna have, when they look at in 2 years, when they look at the record book, say Nebraska ends up at 7-5 or 6-6 or whatever their record is, and be like, you know what, man, they went to a bowl game, but that's not going to be in the record book. So get the best record you can, but you can do that when you take some self-accountability and self-awareness of where the weakness is on the team. So let's not only focus on the offense doing it. Okay, defense, let's do some more defensive turnover drills. And it's not very taxing, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If everybody works on punching the ball out, everybody works on, fumble recovery, everybody works on, okay, if we get it here, do we return it? Which sideline do we do our returns on? Let's work on getting some blocks, right? Let's increase the turnover drills defensively, right? So we're all in it together, right? And then offensively, we got to do ball security drills, whether it's going outside with a damp ball, going outside with a regular ball to get used to it being slick, and ball security. Maybe you have the guys on the practice squad or the red shirt guys, the guys that are, giving you your looks. You got to stay out a little bit later and you got to punch at the ball. I mean, if you want a perfect example of how it was when I was a red shirt, right? I was and Lawrence Phillips was playing. He had kind of like broken a bone in his hand. I mean, his hand was swollen like no other. So I'm a red shirt. Yeah, we got after it in practice, but this is the All-American running back. So he came through the hole, and he had they kind of made a patchwork kind of like pad, and so he had one glove on his good hand and none on his other, but with a pad. And I kind of just tapped him a little bit, and it happened a couple plays. So in between a series of plays, he grabbed me and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And then he's like, "Why aren't you hitting me?" Because it was a Tuesday practice, we got after it, and I was like, "Well, look, man. You got to play Saturday. I'm not gonna be the red shirt that stops you from playing." And then I lost the game because I wanted to be an overzealous red shirt guy, practice squad guy. He grabbed me, looked at me, he's like, "No, I want you to hit me harder because I want to know what type of pain it is and how I can handle it and with my ball handling now versus the game." So to now the present day is get all those dudes out there and start punching at the ball. I would be telling the practice squad guys, punching at the ball every single play, punching at it every single player. I want everybody to be superior on the ball handling. And you know what? If one ball's on the ground, everybody get running. I mean, if you want to, I mean, really, because because you want to know why? You want to look. I'm working hard in practice, and I got to run. Well, then now we're going to have that good peer pressure in there. So I think it's that. So it's not, for Jeff Sims, I think you're just going to have to keep coaching him, because whether it's Jeff Sims or Anthony Grant, there's going to look, I keep saying it, there's 4 games left. They're going to play a big role or be needed, just even if they have to play a good series, individually. So you got to keep coaching these guys and coach everybody, because it's not just those two. Now, granted, it's a little bit more magnified when you're a quarterback. Anything you do good or bad at the quarterback is going to be magnified. And he ain't the only one. So all of them, have issues. It's not like, and that's why I said that as far as the defense need to do some stuff either, right? Because we want to crank up the pressure there with them, because you don't want them to be able to sit over there like, oh yeah, those guys aren't holding their weight. No, we're all in this together. All in this together, because we've been around here at times where the offense has been decent, the defense has been pretty porous, right? We've had that.
Yeah, 09.
Yeah. And
so you just flip it. Defense was great, offense was
and we've had it where, like in when Callahan was here, the offense was good, the defense was pretty porous, and so forth and so on. So, when you're a football team, you're in it together, and you got to figure it out, and they're on the cusp of doing something, pretty cool for them, for these players, especially the seniors in their last year. So, look, you got to push. This is when you got to do more. And I think when you get closer to your goal, you do more, and you do more together. You don't just start to shun guys and stuff like that. Now you could, I would say like this: I'm going to encourage you in public, and I'm going to hold you accountable in private to the utmost, and and go from there. So I think we're going to take a break, come back. We're going to give out a little bit of some game balls and stuff like that, and highlight some guys that we had, quite a few. As much as we're talking about some of the things they need to improve on, there were some guys that stepped up, I felt like, mightily, and they definitely deserve some kudos. So Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We'll be right back. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show, powered by Sunbelt Rentals. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador, Select Plumbing, Jimmy John's, Lincoln Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits, Fleet Feet, Bure's Cheese Spread on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is where it happens. Long hikes with friends, kayaking adventures with family, more horseback riding, zipline gliding, rock face climbing, hammock camping fun than you could ever imagine. And it's all outdoors, amongst the trees and across the prairie, here beneath Nebraska skies. Plan an outing today at yournebraskaadventure.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I'm Christy. I used to smoke cigarettes. I had smoker's cough and severe shortness of breath, and I knew I had to quit. Then I tried e-cigarettes, but I just ended up using both. I really didn't start to get better until I quit smoking completely. My tip to you is just cutting down on the number of cigarettes you smoke isn't enough.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Most parents have a homework schedule for the weekdays, but don't forget to cover the weekends. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. A good way to avoid a problem is to set a homework schedule for the weekend. Set aside a couple hours of homework time on Saturday and help your student avoid staying up late Sunday night to finish a project. Remember, communicating with your child's teacher is vital for student success.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
What up, Inside the Huddle, Jay Foreman. Brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. We are starting to get a little bit of light down here at 1040 O Street. And it's still brisk outside, baby. But, you know, one thing that's funny, I was driving in, Harrison, a lot more activity down here, you know, when people were after a victory, man. It's kind of like
a few cars in the parking garage when I was pulling up.
Uber had a good night. Yeah, Uber had a good night, man.
They'll have a good morning too, getting everyone back to their cars.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, and so you know, big ups to them. Plenty of people went out and partied. I didn't even realize Halloween's on Tuesday, so people went out and partied. You know, and you know, when you see adults out there partying on Halloween, I always look at them crazy, like.
Yeah, I saw some females out there second guessing their Halloween costumes last night.
Yeah,
I think that way.
Yeah, I think Halloween definitely brings out the, I guess, new character in people, you know, and people, So what
through the cold, credit to them. I can do it.
Yeah, good on them. But it's always good after a victory. But I think it's good to, you know, highlight some guys. And I think the first guy that really jumped off the map is, and he's been. I mean, listen. Last year, he showed flashes. I think the second half of the season, especially when Bill Bush took over, big up to Bill Bush. You know, obviously, you know, I think some of the things that he's implemented, him and Mickey implemented on the fly last year is flowed over, especially defensively, for Tony White to take it to another stratosphere. Never want to be remiss and not give them the credit, but is Isaac Gifford, right? Local kid. I remember watching him in high school, and Nebraska came in, and I think he like gray shirted or whatever. And it was like, you know, I think Frost and those guys that, you know, didn't think he was a good enough. Like, I knew he was a Division I player watching him. You know what I mean?
Just the eye test?
I mean, I watched him a whole bunch. You know, I'm like, this dude, how's they not offering him? He's a phenomenal athlete. His brother was here, and it was a phenomenal athlete. And he's right. The younger brother is doing his dang thing, too. So he came in, and he made it the hard way. You know, he came in and you know, proved his point, probably pissed off about the initial process, got his chance last year. And I think it was after the Purdue game, he really started to be more consistent, and he started to show flashes. And then this year, obviously, you know, through the spring, you know, Matt Rule and those guys kind of highlighted him. He's done some good things. And then, you know, started the season off pretty good. And then as he's had to increase his workload with Singleton being out, he's really starting to take off. And I think he's a guy in this 3-3-5 or in any defense that you can play in multiple positions. Smart kid, tough kid. Good athlete, plenty fast and can jump and all that stuff. And yesterday he really stepped up big. You know, 10 tackles, 2 for loss, a really good pass defense where he needed to be in pass coverage, but in both providing a security blanket deep. But the play he made, I think on you know, 3rd or 4th and short, and no fair dodging and good tackling. So I want to give him props because he's been playing really, really well. And you know, whether I'm saying it or not, but I mean, I'm always going to give people respect when they do well. Offensively, I think obviously, you know, a guy that's had 2 really good games for him in a row is Emmett Johnson, right? Runs hard, is still learning. You know, obviously, you know, he's hitting the hole hard, right? There's no fair dodge and isn't tiptoeing. That's what you need. You got to keep this offense on schedule. Even a 3-yard run by him when it looks like a 1 or 2 yard run, and he's strong. Even I saw on a play where it got called back. He got hit at 3 yards, and it ended up, if the play didn't have a penalty in the backfield, which I think was a hold on Jenkins, it would have been an 8-yard run. So what I'm saying is him, yards after contact, ball security, toughness, doing what he needs to do. He had a really good block on a blitz pickup with a ball where Harburg threw it to Doss. That was, you know, Emmett Johnson made that play. He kind of scanned from outside in. Really good job on him. I think he's done well defensively as well. That he had a ton of guys, whether it's Bullock, Sanford had some really good plays, you know, as far as, you know, he had a tackle for loss. Omar Brown had 2 tackles for loss. Hope he's healthy because I think, I don't know if he got his bell rung or whatever.
I think that's all it was. I think he'll be back.
Yeah, so good on him. I mean, Omar Brown, Singleton when he was healthy, and Isaac Gifford have been really, I mean, they're playing well.
They've been a menace out there when they're healthy.
Yeah, they ain't playing no games either. So, good on him. Luke Reimer, it was good to see him, you know, start to be active again. And another guy right here who had a caused fumble, I think in this second series, I've been shouting his name for about 2 years, Jamari Butler. I think if he doesn't lead the team in sacks, I think he's got 5.5 sacks. had another half sack yesterday. Had a really good fumble, caused fumble, right?
Mhm.
Coming out of the stack, Purdue guy would look like he was getting the first down, hit him from the back, strip technique, and we got the recovery, which is what they were, again, set up perfectly to go in and score, stymied that. And there's many more. MJ Sherman had a half a sack with Jamari, so you want to give him props there. Look, Nebraska had 8 tackles for loss, and that's being active in there. And so you want to give those guys some props.
And Turner Corcoran too. The best compliment I can give him is I didn't notice him yesterday. As an offensive line, it's not great when you're noticing the offensive line over and over again.
You mean Turner?
Yeah. What did I say?
You said Turner Corcoran. Turner's out for the season.
Okay.
You know that. Yeah. You mean what you mean is the offensive line played good.
Yeah. Let me hold up here. Who subbed in at for Piper?
It was Latowski.
Okay.
It was Jenkins, and Teddy Prohaska stepped in.
Teddy Prohaska. Yeah. That's who I'm blanking on.
Yeah.
Because I think if you would go back 2 years ago, I think most people would say Teddy Prohaska is one of your best offensive linemen going forward.
He had a couple of good games, and he's fought the injury bug, so it's good for him to get out. Big ups to Donovan Raiola too, getting those guys together and playing well, and on short notice. Another guy right here I want to give props on because he's been a model of consistency and good kid, and works hard at it, and is a tough kid as well, especially when you challenge him mentally, is Quentin Newsom. The big play off the block field goal, 68-yard return, kind of broke the game open, right? And so we knew Purdue, didn't feel comfortable about the kicker, but to have a block field goal, to catch it on the fly, 68-yard touchdown, that's a defensive touchdown. That's special teams coming up big. And then also one more I want to give up props to is Tristan Alvano. The 55-yard field goal, I think he's starting to come out of his shell. I think Matt Rule mentioned it, that he hit the 49-yarder last week. So now you're starting to see what everybody was talking about when he came into college. Struggled early he was missing some chip shots for him.
Yep.
I think he's starting to get in his rhythm. I think he's starting to realize like how good he can be. And the 55-yarder in those conditions, that lets you know that leg he has is for real. So young freshman, again, was just in the middle of a playoff run last year, kicking on the big stage in the Big Ten. Does take a little bit of a transition. And also a good job on the coaches, which would be Coach Foley and Coach Rule, knowing how good the kicker or the kid could be and not throwing him to the wayside and not showing confidence in him, to work through it. They just kept coaching him through it. And that's a good coaching technique. And obviously, I think in the past that you didn't really have. So good. Those are my game balls. I'm sure I missed somebody. I'm sure people would light me up on the text line saying I missed somebody. But, look, a victory is a victory, ugly or not. Ball security and the little details that continue going to be pressed upon, but it's better to do that after a victory than a loss. Onward, upward. 11 o'clock game on the road up there in the Michigan State.
Yeah, at the woodshed.
And we got to bring our own woodshed, so we got to bring some chainsaws or something. You got enough farmers and stuff, like I don't know. We could make a theme up, right?
Yeah.
I'm preferably to show up with a baseball bat, but I don't think they can get those on the plane or get through TSA. So, anyways. Inside the Huddle, Jay Foreman, Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Pete Ferguson is next. We are out.